Imagine, you're a firefighter in a burning building. 1,000-degree flames swirling around beside you, smoke entering your lungs, suffocating. On your hands and knees in piles of rubble, searching, can't see, while burning debris falls on top of you. This is the knife's edge that firefighters walk every day while searching for human victims in structural fires. This was the reality that Dallas fire rescue worker Stanley Wilson faced one fateful morning in 2013, where he unfortunately perished in the flames while searching for human victims inside a burning building. Tragic stories like Stanley's are not alone. In the United States, with over 480,000 structural fires occurring in 2021, which equates to about 1 every 65 seconds, this frequency of structural fires is especially deadly for firefighters, who are required to search all burning buildings for signs of human life, leading them to be placed in incredibly life-threatening situations on a day-to-day basis, further leading to tens of thousands of injuries, hundreds of casualties, and lifelong health illnesses. Furthermore, U.S. fire departments pay the price, spending billions of dollars every year as a result of these injuries. Fire departments across the nation have faced these systemic issues for decades and have not seen any solution developed. Motivated by stories like Stanley's, we've been on a mission to paradigm shift this field to develop robotic solutions to protect the bravest in our communities. Realizing the solution has resulted in an innovative and successful solution.
Let's introduce you to FireBot. FireBot is the world's first wirelessly controlled, thermally insulated search and rescue robot that can deploy into burning buildings to efficiently search for human life without endangering the lives of firefighters. FireBot accomplishes this by searching structural fires to augment the workflow of firefighters. FireBot is wirelessly controlled with a range of up to half a mile. It's equipped with an array of cameras and thermal imaging sensors that allow it to search for human life, and an onboard GPS that can be used to pinpoint the location of a victim, allowing for quick extraction and minimum time in danger for firefighters. Additionally, FireBot's hazmat sensors provide unparalleled situational awareness in hazardous conditions, meaning that FireBot is collecting and providing potentially life-saving data. To accomplish this, FireBot has many capabilities. The robot is smart. It has a continuous data stream to the user interface, keeping its operator informed of conditions in real time. FireBot is also adaptable. We've designed it to climb debris and stairs in high temperatures. It's also modular. It has a suite of sensors compatible with our plug-and-play system, meaning that its operational configuration can be customized to the demands of our users. And finally, FireBot is fast and rugged. It can move up to twice the speed of a firefighter and last significantly longer in the heat of flames, up to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. And FireBot's potential impact is quite substantial. We expect that at scale, FireBot can save the lives of 5 brave firefighters and mitigate 30,000 injuries annually. It can also lead to a long-term reduction in cancer rates in the firefighting profession and ultimately save the industry over $2 billion on an annual basis. One thing that's special about FireBot is that it's the first of its kind. While there have been other robotics platforms developed in the parallel application of extinguishing flames, FireBot is the world's first and only purpose-built, high-temperature search and rescue platform. Let's paint a picture about our adjacent competitors here. These robots are very large, about the size of a small car. They're also thermally vulnerable. There are several documented instances of these robots melting in mission-critical scenarios. And finally, these robots are expensive, costing upwards of $1 million. FireBot shifts this paradigm. As you can see, FireBot is very compact, which makes it search and rescue capable. It's also thermally insulated up to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, and FireBot is affordable, with our pricing structure meaning that our price is 1/10 of these adjacent competitors. Because of this, FireBot is we've had to innovate a lot on FireBot's many subsystems. And as a result of this, we have a very robust IP portfolio, including things such as high temperature tracks and a novel thermal protection system. We're currently working on our V4 model, which is our MVP and beta testing model. And we're also leveraging our technical partnerships to continue introducing innovations to FireBot with things like a high temperature gas sensor, a radar to enable 3D mapping of a structural fire space, and a rapid robot deployment protocol, all currently in the works.
At Paradigm Robotics, we envision FireBot entering 3 key markets: The first of which is fire department themselves, as we target through an organic sales approach spanning fire departments of all sizes. Additionally, because FireBot is the first robot that can actually enter structural fires, it can create and generate unparalleled and unique data about the inside of a fire that firefighters currently can't access, which we can hope to monetize in the future. In the long run, we also hope to pivot FireBot into adjacent markets, including the industrial and manufacturing space, as well as pre-positioning FireBot to insurance companies. FireBot has 3 key strategic advantages over the competitive landscape. First, being a first mover product in the space. Given that FireBot is the only company right now that can currently go into burning buildings and search and rescue for human life, we have the potential to virtually capture 100% of this new market. Secondly, the market itself is massive. We estimate the market size at just over $18 billion nationwide, servicing 56,000 fire stations. Finally, there are large technological barriers to entry in this market, which we have over the years overcome. However, these obstacles prevent new players from easily entering. Here at Barrentine Robotics, we're all about accessibility. We want FireBot to be affordable and utilized by fire departments of all sizes, regardless of their budgetary constraints. To do this, we offer a 2-pronged sales approach model that targets both B2B and B2G buyers with a one-time sales price of $90,000 or a yearly leasing price of $20,000. We believe that this 2-pronged approach allows fire departments of all sizes to be able to afford FireBot. More important than the 3.8-year ROI that FireBot gives to fire stations, it's important to realize that the price of one FireBot still costs less than the cost that fire departments have to pay for one injured firefighter, with the potential to prevent thousands of injuries with one single use case. So let's move on to our financials for a little bit. Here you can see a 6-year projection period for FireBot and Barrentine Robotics as a whole. At the bottom, you can see our baseline estimates, which assume no capital injection. This means that these numbers are generated purely based off our sales approach. Currently, we're building out our MVP with our planned expansion into our MVP Pro in 2024 with our beta testers in Texas. 2025 is a key year for us, as this is where we are first generating sales with our Gen 1 introduction into the state. Importantly, over the next few years, we'll continue R&D and development of our Gen 2 robot and deploying it at the regional level. 2028 is also a key year for us, as it's the first year that we achieve profitability. What's important is that achieving profitability in 5 years is quite not the norm in the robotics industry, as most other competitors don't achieve profitability for 10 to 15 years in the future. You may notice significant variation in our net income and expenses prior to 2028. To help offset this, we have outlined a fundraising document strategy that you can see at the bottom of the slide that outlines both dilutive and non-dilutive options that we are proposing. Additionally, we hope that these options will not only offset some of our losses, but also accelerate our timeline into the future. 2029 is a key year for us as well, as this is where we first start to see the true potential of FireBot start to take off. By the end of the year, we estimate over $25 million in net income, and post-2029 is when you first start to see the scaling and standardization of the company, as we hope to increase profit margins through increased economies of scale. Additionally, over this entire projection period, we're still only capturing less than 3% of the market, further highlighting the immense potential in this market.
And we are set about to make the impossible possible with your help. Currently, we are raising a $750,000 pre-seed round, having already secured over $40,000 in non-dilutive funding. To this end, we are seeking connections to fire departments, municipal governments, and investors to help us achieve this dream. We are also seeking advice and mentorship from you. And with this, we can achieve several key milestones in the coming months, including developing the FireBot V4 MVP, building out 5 of these to deliver to our beta contract partners, bringing on more team members, as well as securing several patents from the USPTO. And we've seen significant traction across the US, having built relationships with 25 fire departments, individually interviewed hundreds of firefighters to help us better understand this complex and emotional issue with those on the ground. And this has helped us build partnerships with fire departments across Texas, helping us foster a community of engagement through public demos, K-12 outreach, as well as interdisciplinary research groups across Texas. And we are innovation that excites. FireBot is a nationally recognized award-winning product, having been featured by the media. And we are thankful to be supported by our strategic partners, Blackstone Launchpad and Capital Factory, as well as more. Let's take a moment to introduce our wonderful team. Hi, I'm Siddharth Thakur. I'm our founder and CEO.
Hi, I'm Anirudh Thakur, CFO in charge of finances and investor relations.
I'm Jimmy Mahon. I'm COO and also a material science engineer on FireBot. And then also in the audience is our CTO, Krishnan, who's head of software.
And this wouldn't be possible without our great board of advisors who bring together the expertise that we need to advance both our product and organization to the next level. Together, we can keep our brave heroes like Stanley Wilson safe. Thank you. I'd like to welcome up our CTO upstage for our Q&A. Thank you.
Now we have 10 minutes of Q&A with judges.
Can you talk elaborate a bit on who invented this and then kind of what stage the MVP is in today? You know, how many fires has it been in? How is it used, et cetera?
Sure, I'll take that one. So actually, FireBot started over 6 years ago when I heard on the news about the death of Stanley Wilson, our firefighter. And after reaching out to our local fire department, where I learned of this tragic story and this issue where firefighters are getting trapped or killed in structural fires, I was motivated to make a change. So I interviewed fire departments all across the country where I learned that this issue was systemic. So I started innovating then. And over the course of 6 years, we built out 3 versions of this product. This is our V3. This is one of our prototypes. So this has been used by Travis County Fire, Austin Fire Department. It's been in different situations, and we've done thorough testing on it. Now that we have a team of expertise, we're building out our V4 version, which is hoped to be our MVP.
And what will that include? If I'm a fire department, what's the MVP on this?
Sure, Jimmy, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure thing. So the big difference is, so the main weakness on this is that the tracks will melt. With our new version, we are working on patenting a new metal-based track version, so that will allow it to climb obstacles, stairs, things like that. That will far exceed the performance of this. Also, the thermal performance, in terms of the thermal protection system, will be much better on the MVP. So it'll be able to go up to the full 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like the flash point of fires, for 15 minutes. And then as well as improvements in our thermal cameras and our just cameras in general.
Overall, the MVP is a major upgrade in every subsystem, and we've worked closely with firefighters to identify these key upgrades necessary to make to this V3 version to ensure that the V4 exceeds the requirements that the firefighters need. So overall upgrades.
And just so I'm clear, you've got a firefighter or someone that's with the team that's driving this through the structure? Or
Yes.
does this automatically do that?
So FireBot is a remotely controlled device. So there's a firefighter, a dedicated operator who's safely outside the burning building, who's remotely driving it through the structure while watching the live feeds on the firefighter control interface.
What's the overall range
Kristen?
for a firefighter?
The overall range in terms of being able to
As
control?
far as the controller who is utilized that.
Yeah,
how much
you can
range
control this in like, a 10-wall building, up to half a mile. So the range is definitely not an issue. We've worked with companies to develop that technology.
We've partnered exclusively with a few military-grade wireless communications providers, so we have the best radios in the business right now.
So who do you envision building this?
Jimmy, would you like to take that?
Sure thing. So our goal is to leverage a global OEM for the manufacturing of our components, and then we hope to do assembly stateside. So one of the things that we've done, we've been very intentional since we started building out our MVP to be working with large suppliers as much as possible and then searching for assembly options. We're based out of UT Austin, so initially we're hoping to have something in the Austin area or Texas in general. So you have global OEM for components and then assembly stateside.
So looks like SmokeBot is a close competitor in terms of just the size. What's their price point? How does that compare to what you're offering?
Jimmy, go for that.
Yeah, so SmokeBot was actually a university research project at the University of Zurich several years ago. Since then, we haven't found any documents or updates on it since about 2017. But the primary weakness on it is that it isn't actually thermally insulated. It is more designed for data collection in structural fires. But we actually found a manual for it that says, this don't send into super hot fires. So it's more like the application of SmokeBot would be more go around a burning building and collect temperature looking in.
It's purely a research product, not an actual product.
Okay, so what's the closest competitor that's an actual product?
One of the beautiful things is that it's a very untapped market. There is currently no robot that has ever been designed to go into a structural fire. So all these other closer products are these large tanks that are designed to go outside a burning building and spray a hose of water, which if you think about it, isn't really helpful for firefighters who are required to go into these burning buildings to search for victims. So currently the market is very new and untapped.
Okay, well, one more question. So is it a big enough TAM to
Under-
focus on firefighters?
Yeah, so our market sizing estimates a TAM of over $18 billion across the nation, which scales down based on the region as well.
And one of the other things is this TAM is very conservative. In fact, here, we've only talked about FireBot as one of our platforms. This doesn't include our data providing services, our integrations with other services, and our future products as well. So the market only scales.
And this is also just for firefighting departments. This doesn't include the manufacturing industrial spaces as well as the other revenue streams we're looking at.
So with this being a fairly untested market, how are you all factoring in liability issues? Because you are basically at this point trusting on your FireBot to protect the life of firefighters in a situation. So what does that look like for you all?
That's a great question, and that's something that we're actively working on at the moment. In fact, just last week we spoke with people from NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. So unfortunately in this field, there's very few regulations developed, not only for robotics, but for firefighters themselves. The NFPA mainly takes a hands-off approach. So what we've been working on is developing standards and regulation for FireBot to ensure that it meets the needs of firefighters, as well as works to keep them safe. So by working closely with firefighters, we're understanding what they need to do to trust and use FireBot in their day-to-day job. We are also working with regulators on the other front to make sure that whatever regulations may exist, FireBot meets them as well as performs its safety standards. So this is something that we're developing given that there are currently no regulations in this space.
And to add on to that, we've really been intentional about making the robot as robust as possible. For example, the thermal protection system, the 1200 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, far exceeds what you can reasonably expect in an operational scenario, because the flash point of a fire, it typically happens when like flames billow out. That usually only happens for up to 30 seconds. So we're intentional about over-engineering it to ensure that it is as robust as possible. And that's also reflected in our maintenance strategy.
How do fire stations procure stuff like this? Do they have an independent authority to do so? Is it centralized? How are you going to sell this?
Sure, Anya, would you like that?
Yeah, so from our understanding with conversations with fire departments, so fire departments tend to have budgets that they can spend each budgetary cycle, on things like R&D as one component of it. And so generally, larger scale departments have the budgetary, ability to be able to, pay for things like FireBot on the side. However, the main way that fire departments end up paying for a lot of their R&D and technology and robots is through loans and bonds that they'll take out with the government.
So mainly
So you said the magic word, government. And anytime you're dealing with the GOV, there's a level of regulatory, a threshold and requirements and regulations. That how well aware of you are all potential?
right.
Of all the potential pitfalls of doing business with the government, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think two things to answer there. I think the first part is there's always an impression that doing business with the government might be a smaller market. I think according to our data from Deep Knowledge Analytics, right now it's $1 trillion market, right, the government technology market, and a lot of it is underserved and untapped. So by speaking directly with fire departments, we've had conversations with municipal governments, so one step above, to help us understand the buying cycle, as well as who does the purchasing and how to go through that process. So it's something we're actively learning so that we avoid those pitfalls that you're talking about.
Oh, no, the market is big. What I'm trying to smoke out, no pun intended, is do you know how they buy and what the rules of engagement are for buying? Because there's always just a tremendous amount of just things that you need to comply with in order for them to buy. And I'm trying to understand if you've studied how they buy.
Right.
Who are you selling to and how do they buy?
Well, to help us, first of all, that's a great question. That's something that we're actively working on because right now we're currently in an R&D phase. We're heavily developing a robot, and that's something we want to learn and better understand as we move into the sales cycle. To that end, as I was saying earlier, we've been having conversations to understand who does the purchasing, because right now the municipal governments do the purchasing for these fire departments. So talking to players in this space to see who does the purchasing, who does the buying, that'll help us better understand how to market to them. But that's something we're looking into.
That's an excellent answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I would, just following up on that, one thing I would recommend is you're thinking through your pitch to the local governments. I was just kind of running some numbers. At $90,000 a unit, if you had one of these in every firehouse in Fort Worth, that's $3.8 million. and not saying that's a huge amount in the viewpoint of the overall fire department budgets, but many communities, not Fort Worth, but many communities will take a very black and white approach. You're increasing my budget by $3.8 million or not. And so I don't know that you talked about having these would be less than the cost of the injuries to the firefighter, but I think you have to kind of put it to the standard costs of this is going to bring the overall operational cost of the department down.
Right, right.
Because I think that's going to be kind of a big talking point.
Right. No, it's a great point. We'll definitely use that when we approach and pitch to firefighters. And I think part of that goes with the whole philosophy of fire departments already are looking to spend on high technology. Austin Fire Department's budget for the robotics program is $7-8 million. Other cities as well are looking to move into that space to protect their firefighters and increase that standard of care. So definitely we'll look into that. Thank you.